Hi, it's Natalie from Unpage Society. Thank you for joining me today. I wanted to go through my process for packing for when I go on a trip or an adventure where I'm planning on crafting, because I realized I neglected to do that in my hurry to leave. So for my latest adventure, I'll go through and I will kind of show you how I organized things and then what ended up coming with me and what ended up staying behind. So this is the core of my journal. I divided it into these three kind of like half bags. These are from 49 in the market, but there are other companies out there that make them kind of similar. And then I have one of their larger pages as pockets as well. Those were for my full-size pages. I did some labeling so I knew kind of where things were. So this is where the pieces of my journal base were initially kept. So the pieces that I cut out from the 12 by 12 layout, and then the black kind of journaling cards that I had all went in here. And then now they're all in there with my journaling cards. So some of them are finished and some of them are a work in progress. And then so that I could keep track of what was where, I labeled these ones. I took some solid pieces of paper that coordinated with the colors that I was using, and I cut them into 1/2 and 1/4 sheets so that they were easy to use. And then I had some chipboard pieces and some tags and some cutouts that I put in this other bag. When I was packing, after I had labeled everything, I found this fabric, which I felt went really well with my pattern. So I brought that with me and proceeded to do nothing with it. And then now this just has kind of some of those 1/2 and 1/4 sheets. And then I stuck my ruler in here as well, just so it's nicely like tucked away. I took a carry-on piece of luggage with me, so I had to be mindful of how much stuff I was taking, because I still had to have my clothes in there, and then also what can go through TSA and what can't. I've had some scissors confiscated in Vienna, so that was disappointing, so I made some changes this time with what I have. For the chipboard cards, tags, and cutouts, I have a little trimmer that I used, and I demoed this in a short video that I posted. This is from American Crafts. I just got it as a freebie from scrapbook.com once, and it fits really nicely in here, and the blade is so far has had no issues with purity. And then I just have some leftover kind of cards and pieces, and then the chipboard, and I stuck in just little pieces of ephemera, and I thought maybe I'd use these as the fabric closure. These were from like just the little kind of cup holder napkins that you get at, like, we went to the Ritz-Carlton just for a cocktail. So I have some like trip ephemera, and then I have some of the tickets for when we were taking the train and a few other things. So those ended up in here. And then this is all of the 12 by 12 paper that I had that for this pack. I didn't want to pre-cut it because I didn't know what I was doing with it or what my plan was. So I had the opportunity to put in all the full-size ones, and then I have a bit more, like, I liked this box, which was from some donuts that we had. I liked the inside of this chip bag, so I washed it out, and I wanted to incorporate it either in this journal or another one. And then since my trip, I put in, because I went on 2 kind of consecutively, there's some more papers in there that I haven't removed yet. And then that all just kind of went together. So I could kind of pick and choose what I wanted as I went. And then for tools, I bring a silicone craft mat, which I like to store in the box because I just find it's easy and it doesn't get as dirty. This is a box from some Pinkfresh Studio brushes that I have. They're like 3 of these brushes come in the pack. And the boxes were really nice, and they're good for storage. So what I stored in here was just my little domed foams, my tiny tools, and my mini blending foams. So they were all kind of here and ready to use. And then these were the inks that I brought. So I have like a note that I made for a card, and then this was the tea that I was drinking while I was gone. And then I brought, these were the colors that I felt matched the closest to the Bohemian Bazaar that I had in my stash. And then these were the pens that I felt matched really well too, so that I could journal with coordinating colors as I went. And yeah, so this is kind of, that's it. That's the equipment. It is fairly extensive and took up more room than it probably needed to. And had I planned it and not been packing like the night before we left and then the day that we were leaving, I could have gotten it down to a significantly smaller amount of stuff, but this is basically what I ended up with. I liked the bags and the system. It worked really well for me, which is why I'm posting a video about it. So if you have an opportunity to go on a trip and to travel, these are kind of the core things that I found that helped, and always packing in advance is helpful too. Then I have this little pop down bag. Like, this is a pouch from Honeybee Stamps, and in it is the other stuff that I brought. So I like having a T-square ruler. This is my small lefty Tim Holtz scissor. This is the one that was taken from me. When I went through security, it was fine on the way there and it was not okay on the way back. The issue wasn't the length of the blade, it was the width of this was less than a millimeter wider than what they felt could work. So you might get away with it, but I would recommend, if you don't want to lose your scissors, to not. They did offer to mail them to my home for 54 euros, which was excessive, but I digress. So I just bring the little ones now. I have a pencil for making markings. I have some post-it notes for making notes on my stuff, because sometimes I don't bring everything. Like, I didn't bring a whole bunch and I didn't bring some other things. And then I like to use the double-sided tape. I did bring 2 different widths to kind of help with things. That's a sticker from the donut box that I just felt fit better in there. I have a little thing of glue, which I brought because this one's almost empty, but I'm trying to use up what I have. I have this retractable craft pick. I have not had an issue with security with this so far. I just keep it retracted. I think because it's retractable, it's not an issue. I take a bone folder. I have, this is like a rolling kind of adhesive from Arden Creative that I thought I might use. I brought a little thing of glossy accents, just that I never ended up using, but I had it. And then some mini post-it notes and some mint tape. So just in case I needed to use some mint tape, and then that's it. So when I was crafting near the end, what I found was handy about this pouch was, because this is like almost empty, if you have it right side up, you're constantly tipping it over and then waiting for everything to fall. But because there's this extra pouch part here, I just kind of tuck these in. And then when you have it sitting up, gravity is kind of pulling everything down to the bottom and it sits in there really nicely. So it's sort of like having a glue holder with you when you're gone, which I didn't want to bring with me because this is just too bulky, like, to travel with. It's not a practical device. Maybe if you were on a car trip or something, but even then, I like to keep things lean in spite of what this gigantic pile indicates. So there you go. I even had some room on the way back for some crafty items that I purchased. They've sort of found their way into my craft room, so it's unlikely that I will do a video on those. But if you have taken the time to last to the end of the video, I want you to know that I do appreciate your time. I know you have a lot of creative options out there, and I am grateful that you have made me one of them. I hope that you have some journeys coming up in your future and that you're able to create some like long-lasting journaling memories with them, and that some of these packing techniques will be helpful for you in your adventures. Thanks very much. Bye.